and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my September wrap-up and also the wrap-up for the BOOKOPLATHON, which took place throughout the entire month of September. So I'm coming to you today from a slightly different background than I usually do. The sun was making it really difficult for me to film in my usual location, and the sun is actually right there. So I'm just gonna sit very still and try and get through this video without the sun disturbing it for me. So I had 9 books on my TBR for September. 8 of them were for the BOOKOPLATHON, and then I had one more book that was not counting towards the BOOKOPLATHON. Unfortunately, I only finished 7 of those books. I started the 2 others as well, so I started all of them, but I haven't completed all of them, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened this month. 7 is like the lowest number I've had all year. But I think maybe I just read a little bit less on the weekends this month, and the weekends is usually where I do most of my reading, so that probably affected it a little bit. But like, it's still not bad. Like, I'll take it. So yeah, I was hoping that I would finish all of the BOOKOPLATHON books, but at least I started everything, so that's good. I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go through the books in the order that I roll the prompts. So I'm going to start with the first, the prompt that I got for my first roll, and then I'm just going to go through them in that order. So the first prompt that I got for the BOOKOPLATHON was to read a book with a foiled cover. And for that prompt I decided to read Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is actually one of the books that I haven't completed. At the time of filming this, today is the 3rd of October, and I have a little under 200 pages left, so I'm almost there. So what I can say about this so far is that I am enjoying it. It's a YA sci-fi. It took me a little while to get into it, but I am enjoying it so far. But I'll talk more about this book in my October wrap-up, since I haven't actually completed it yet. So the second prompt that I got was to read an ebook or an audiobook, and for that prompt I chose to read The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. So this is a non-fiction that is about the radium industry in the US in the 1920s and 30s, and about like how mostly really young girls worked with radium without any kind of protection, not knowing how dangerous it was, and how seemingly at least some of the people like higher up knew about the dangers, or at least suspected it. And so it's basically about those girls and what they went through, all the suffering they went through, and their fight for justice later on. This book was really good. It feels wrong to say that I enjoyed it, because it's a pretty, like, what happened to those girls is pretty horrifying. It was kind of heartbreaking to read about. I listened to this on audio, and the audiobook was narrated by the author, and it was really good. I got really engaged in these girls' stories. There was a lot of names in this book, though. I mean, not just the girls, but there was like a lot of names of lawyers and doctors and dentists and all that, and I struggled a little bit to keep them apart. I couldn't always remember who was who. So that was like, I get that it sort of had to be that way, because this is a true story, so that was how it was. But yeah, I struggled a little bit with that. So I got a little bit confused at times, just because there were so many people to sort of try and keep track of. But apart from that, I really enjoyed this book. I didn't know anything about the story, so to hear about what these girls had to go through, and just the struggle they went through later on to just get justice, really, and just to get like treated the way that they deserved, and for everyone to know that what they went through is actually a result of the work that they did with radium and how dangerous radium is. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I give it 4 stars. I thought it was really good and definitely recommend. So the next prompt that I got was Becca Rec, which is basically to read a book recommended by Becca from Becca in the Books, who is the one who hosts this readathon. So for this prompt I picked Rebecca by, okay, I'm going to attempt this name now, Daphne du Maurier, something like that. Yeah, I read Rebecca. Like I mentioned in my TBR video, I have read this book before, but it's so long ago that I couldn't really remember anything. As I was reading this book, some things actually came back to me. Like I knew what would happen at some point before the thing actually happened. So there was a twist in here that I actually remembered before it happened. So that was kind of strange, because I guess I had the book like in my subconscious somewhere. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I wasn't sure what I would think about it, because like I've said before, classics is not always like my favorites. This book was really good. It got my attention pretty much all the way through, and like had me on the edge of my seat for a lot of it. I have to say I was a little disappointed by the ending. I kept waiting for something like huge to happen. I thought there would be, like, I felt that there was something coming. And then when that thing sort of happened right at the end, it was like, I was a little underwhelmed, I have to say. I was like, is this it? So that's like my main complaint, I guess. I was just hoping for a little bit more. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would have given it 4 stars if it wasn't for that ending. But since I was kind of disappointed by that, I'm going to take it down to 3.5. But I still really enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised, actually. So the next prompt that I got was to read a book with nature on the cover. And for this prompt I read The Palisade by Rosalinda Bell. This was another pleasant surprise, because I've had this on my Kindle for like 3 years and I just haven't felt tempted to pick it up. This was actually pretty good. The author, as far as I know, like, the name is a pen name, so I think this is actually written by a guy, I think. And the writing was really good in this. I was, like I said, pleasantly surprised. So basically this book is about a small town called Lavender Shores. It's about this guy Andrew, who grew up in this town, and his whole family lives in this town. He loves this town. This is where he wants to stay. This is where he wants to settle down. But in the past, the guys that he's dated hasn't really wanted to live in such a small town. So we haven't been able to find someone to settle down with. And then we have the other main character in this book, which is Joel, and he is coming to Lavender Shores because he is looking to start a business. He works for his father's like coffee company, and they are looking to like expand their brand and start a business, start a coffee shop in Lavender Shores. So he's there for that, and of course the two of them meet. And it's kind of insta-lovey, because most of this book takes place during like a long weekend, and they meet and fall in love, and basically like a lot happened during that weekend, and it happened really quickly, but it's written in a way that made me not mind that so much. One thing that bothers me a little bit is that one of the main characters keep a very big secret from the other character for most of the book. I kind of wish that hadn't dragged out as long as it did, because it just didn't make me feel great about the romance, just because one of them was hiding such a big thing from the other. But apart from that, I don't really have anything that I disliked about this. It was maybe a little too sweet for my taste, but like, that's just a taste thing. So I give this book 4 stars, and I think I'll probably continue the series. I don't know how many books there are, but I know who is going to be the main character of the next book, which was one of the characters that we met in this book. It is basically a friend of Andrew, one of the main characters. So yeah, this was great. Really enjoyed it and gave it 4 stars. The next prompt that I got was to read a book set in the future, and for that prompt I chose Walk Away by Cory Doctorow. Man, this book was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time with this. I just felt lost. I just could not get into it. This is a huge book too. I think it's like 500 pages or more. Yeah, it's just over 500 pages, and it's such a cool edition of this book. You basically have the dust jacket that you basically have the dust jacket that goes on up like this, and like I mentioned in my TBR, this is signed too. So I really hoped that I would enjoy it, but I just struggled. I'm not sure if it was a language thing, because I read this in English, or if it was just difficult to read, because I did not understand half of what was going on, at least during the first part of the book. I felt completely lost, and yeah, I just had such a hard time getting into the story. But like the premise, at least as far as I understood it, is that this is set in the future, but not too far in the future. I think it's in the 2070s or something. And we have walkaways, which are basically people who choose to live a normal life behind. Normal life in this book is called default, and walkaways are basically people who leave that traditional life behind. So in this book we follow a group of walkaways. So there was just a lot of talk of a science and philosophy, I guess, in this book. Like I said, I had a hard time understanding anything that was going on. It did get a little bit better in the second half. I was a little bit more on board with what happened. I understood a little bit more, and also because of that I got a little bit more engaged in the story. And also another thing that I appreciate about this is that and the group of people that we follow, it's a really diverse group of people, which is always nice. But since I probably would have DNF'd this book if I wasn't super stubborn and never really DNF'd books, because this, like I said, it was such a struggle for me. So I ended up giving this book 2 stars, and basically because it did pick up in the second half, and I did sort of enjoy some things that happened there. Yeah, I had a really hard time with this book, and I was so relieved when I was finally done with it. I think this could also be part of the reason I read a little less this month, just because this book took me a while to get through. But yeah, I'm glad I finally read this book. Unfortunately, I didn't like it, but at least it completed a prompt for the BOOKOPLATHON. For the next prompt, I got a community shelf card, and on that card, the prompt I got was to read a book by an author whose first and second name starts with the same letter. So for this prompt, I chose to read The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda. So this is a mystery thriller with a small town setting. The main character in this book is a young girl named Avery, and her parents died when she was young. And since then, there's this rich family in town that's sort of taken her under their wing, so to speak. So they've sort of helped her with education and housing, and she's also best friends with the daughter in that family, Sadie. But one day Sadie is found dead, and initially her death is ruled a suicide, but eventually Avery starts to think that maybe she didn't kill herself and that someone actually killed her. So there was a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this book. The atmosphere I really liked. I've mentioned before that I like atmospheric mysteries, and this book had that small town kind of atmosphere that I really enjoy. So the setting was great. I also really liked the writing, and this is definitely an author that I want to read more from. I also found the mystery pretty engaging and interesting. So yeah, I don't really have any complaints about this. I think I'm probably I've been sort of debating with myself whether to give this book 3.5 stars or 4 stars, because while I didn't really see, there wasn't really anything wrong with it, but it also wasn't like the most amazing thing ever. So for now I've settled on a 4 stars. I think that's the rating I'm going to give it, but I might change that to a 3.5 later on. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and it won't be my last book from this author. So the next prompt that I got was Disability Wrap, and for this prompt I chose to read Hidden in Darkness by Alice Winters, because this book has a main character that is blind. This is also a romance, a male-male romance. So we basically follow this guy Felix, who is hired to take care of a recently blinded and wounded man. And this man's name is Lane. And Lane is sort of is just kind of angry at the situation, and he definitely doesn't want Felix to come and be his babysitter, as he calls it. So he is pretty determined to just make things difficult for Felix, basically. But like, Felix is pretty stubborn and he doesn't really care how Lane is acting towards him, and like eventually the two of them start to grow closer, and yeah, romance happens. So I mean, this book I had kind of high expectations for, but unfortunately it was pretty disappointing. Like, everything about this book was just okay. Like, the romance was okay, but I didn't love it. I didn't like really feel the chemistry between the two main characters. The characters were okay, but I didn't really love any of them. Like, Felix was kind of fun, but Lane I didn't really care about at all. And also another thing that I should mention is I thought this was a romance when it's actually romantic suspense. So the romance didn't really get a lot of focus in this, which I think is another reason why I didn't really feel it. And like, so because it's romantic suspense, there was a kind of a mystery aspect of this, which was also just okay. I didn't really care about it. The writing, again, just okay. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. So this book was just very like middle of the road. I was hoping to love it. Unfortunately, I didn't. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars, maybe more of a 2.5. I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to settle on 3 stars because it wasn't bad. It's just I didn't love it. So this is like a first book in a series, and initially I thought that I wasn't going to continue the series, but then I realized that I can get the audiobooks for the next 2 books, I think, off on Scribd, and the ending sort of made me want to continue the series. I might try the audiobooks, or at least try the audiobook for the next book and see if I like that one better. But yeah, this book, like I said, just okay, so I think I'm going to settle at 3 stars for this one. So the final prompt that I got for the BOOKOPLATHON was young adults, and for that prompt I chose to read Two Boys Kissing by David Levitan. But this is another book that I didn't finish this month, so I'm not going to talk about it now. At the time I'm filming this, I have completed it, but at the end of September I was only like 80 pages into this. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that book now, but I started it in September, unfortunately did not finish it. So that was everything that I read for the BOOKOPLATHON, and then I read one more book that wasn't for the BOOKOPLATHON and that I've already talked about because I made a separate reading vlog for this book, which I will link up above or down below or whatever. But that book was Loveless by Alice Oseman. But in case you haven't watched that reading vlog, I really love this book. It just hit me in so many ways. I've never read a book that I felt that I could relate to so much. And there was just so much in this that I could just, that I've just experienced myself, and feelings that I've had myself. And so this book was just, I'm so glad this book exists. And I don't think I said it in the vlog, but like, but I guess it was pretty obvious that I give this book 5 stars. Alice Oseman just continues to be one of my favorite authors. So yeah, my favorite book of the month, definitely. So that was the 7 books that I read in September, and also the 2 books that I started but didn't complete. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed I wasn't able to finish all the book on my Bookoplathon TBR, because there was only 8, and I think that I should have been able to do it, but unfortunately things didn't turn out this way this month. But I'm happy to have started everything, and I'm also kind of glad that I'm not playing Bookoplathon every month, because I think the way Becca does it is if she doesn't complete all the books on her TBR in a month, she has to do like a punishment the next month. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not playing Bookoplathon in October. But I had so much fun playing in September, so thank you to Becca for hosting and just creating such a fun readathon. And even though I didn't finish as many books as I wanted this month, I still had a really good month of reading. I still read a new favorite book, and I discovered some new authors that I definitely want to check out more books from in the future. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!